Good morning. This is Lindsay with Lindsay Lou Rogers on the Momentum Talk Show. And today we have Kelly Noel Zeva with us to tell us all about all the wonderful things that she is doing. And I just wanted to remind everyone here today what Momentum is all about. And then I'll let Kelly take over and share her gifts with us. So Momentum stands for Monumental Opportunity Manifesting Extraordinary New Times Upon Man and Womankind. So just to get back to the basics here, that is why we started this, to showcase other people's talents and to share tidbits with the world of what they have to offer. So I'll let you take it over and introduce yourself, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. And just as an FYI, you go by Kelly Noel. That's my first name. So yes, thank you for the wonderful introduction. Thank you so much for having me on. It's really a pleasure to be here. So I am the CEO and holistic sex coach of Erotic Empowerment. I'm based here in Madison, Wisconsin, and I also have clients across the country and have the capability to have clients across the globe. So it's been a lot of fun supporting people with their healing and transformation, especially during this time where we're really entering a powerful period to release and let go of a lot of conditioned patterns around sexuality, around self-love, around limitations. So yeah, it's such a privilege and such an honor to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. You've helped me in so many ways already with some of your Facebook groups, guided meditations, and your trainings. I've learned a lot. A couple of things that we'll get to share with everyone today. We are coming to you via video conference today in the wake of everything going on with COVID, and I know we are going to talk a bit about that as well. And so I just want to start with the topic of superpowers. So what do you feel when you hear that word, Kelly Noel?
Yeah, so you and I actually talked a little bit about this yesterday. Is, superpowers to me is really something that I excel at, something that I share with the world. And so one of my superpowers is leading guided meditations. That's something that I've been practicing the last few years, and something that I really enjoy doing because I think it supports my clients and people in my group and just people in general in grounding and connecting to the earth. And that is especially important during this time because when I'm operating in a place of fear, it can be very easy and very tempting for me to disconnect from the earth. And so grounding is especially important if I have a lot of fear coming up. And a lot of people right now with, the COVID-19 outbreak are in a place of fear or panic, or they were earlier this week. And, I've had my own moments of anxiety and fear and worry, wondering what this means. And so in those moments, it's been really important for me to come back to my breath, come back to the earth, to ground so that I stay present in my body. And that's the beauty of guided meditation. So superpowers, I think there's going to be this huge shift where people really focus on their life purpose and really focus on harnessing their superpowers and sharing those gifts with the world. And, part of this transition and transformation is really anything in my life that hasn't been in alignment is going to shift and shutter off. And so if I have been keeping my gifts to myself, or I haven't really been stepping into that gift, I know that I'm talented at music and I haven't been practicing it, or I've been doing other things. I've been focused on surviving. I've been focused on money. I've been focused on creating an ideal relationship. There's going to be a lot of opportunity, and there already is opportunity with some of the self-quarantining, some of the restrictions to go inward and to really connect with those superpowers that I haven't been maximizing. So I think, like I said, for me, one of mine is guided meditation. Another one of mine is writing. And I was a huge reader when I was growing up. I loved reading. I was a huge fantasy novel buff. I loved Harry Potter. When I was in fifth grade, I dressed up as Hermione Granger. I was absolutely obsessed with the Harry Potter books, which I think a lot of millennials can relate to because we really grew up with Harry. And I was in second grade when I read the first one and actually did a speech on it during forensics. I have some photos of me wearing this cape and this black neck and white Ked's shoes. So of course that's exactly what Harry did when he was Hogwarts.
Mhm.
Cheap little plastic wand. So yeah, it was funny. And I also created a mobile for one of my classes about Harry Potter, and there was this plastic doll's head attached to it. I remember I was just about me and my childhood. I was going through my old stuff at my parents' place and found that. And I think the reason that I was so drawn to Harry Potter growing up is because I felt alone. I had these gifts, these intuitive gifts that I had really shut down and disconnected from. And so there was a part of me that really felt that. You know, I always loved angels, and I think I really resonated with Harry's experience of feeling like an outsider.
Mm.
And I created my experience of being an outsider. And you know, I didn't open up to family members, or I didn't open up to my friends. I didn't know how to be vulnerable. So I created that experience of being an outsider, and I could still relate to what Harry was going through. So the idea of being connected to magic and creating things, I've always loved that. And so for me growing up, fantasy novels like Harry Potter was really the way I disconnected from my body, the way I disconnected from the earth. I had a lot of fear and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And so I still love Harry Potter. I still love the novels, and I think reading can be such a joyous, wondrous thing. And I think that's going to be the challenge now, you know, with the COVID outbreak, is learning and discerning when am I enjoying something? When am I choosing to shift my focus to promote self-care? And when am I distracting myself? When am I intentionally disconnecting from my body because I don't feel safe? And so some of those patterns that I've had, that other people have had, are really coming to the forefront of the focus, and it can be a distraction. So to really use discernment throughout this time, I think, is going to be incredibly important.
That is super profound. Yeah. What an insight into you as a person. And then that makes a lot of sense for people today. So I think a lot of people can relate to both of those things. Loving Harry Potter, the reason why, and what that means for them now, drawing out their gifts. We did touch a little bit on poetry and then divine. You can go into whatever realm you'd like.
Yeah. So I mentioned that one of my superpowers is writing, and poetry in particular. I love poetry, and in 2012, that's when things started just flowing so much more easily. I studied English writing in school and was always a very gifted writer. And I think that was also an outgrowth of being an avid and voracious reader too. The two were linked. And it was something that I always just really gravitated toward, was very natural at. And then in 2012, things just opened up. So poetry for me has been a powerful release of energy. So I've talked a little bit in some of my videos about how sexual energy is creative energy, is life force energy, that they're all the same thing. And that's something too throughout this transition that we're really going to get connected with, because especially in the United States, we've really tamped down that sexual and creative energy. And when it is repressed and when it is tamped down, then when it does come out, it can come out in a perverse way where I seek power over other people. And so by tapping into my creative energy and expressing it, whether that's through writing or poetry or drawing or vision boards or sexuality, I can release it in a way that's authentic. That's the goal here. And so for me with poetry, when I had this really strong emotional experience of grief or loss or confusion or longing, right, poetry just came so naturally to me. And so I was in Spain and I wrote a couple poems there. I remember one I wrote in 2012 was To Mourn a Massacre. So this is when I was studying abroad in my junior year of college, and the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting happened while I was in Spain. And so I wrote a poem on that because I had this huge outpouring of grief. And then in 2017, I had a couple really big life transitions as well. I left the job I was at. There was someone that I was very attached to that I expressed my feelings for that person. Oh, sorry, I disappeared there for a moment. I'm on my phone, and so if I get an incoming call with Zoom, it's like, we're going to prioritize this instead of your Zoom call. And
in life, we can choose our priorities. The phone doesn't let us.
So 2017, yes. So lots of transitions, lots of life changes. I was leaving this job. There was this person I was really connected to. And at that point, I was still in the infancy of working on myself. I had just become a Reiki practitioner a few months prior, still was really on my own path and still escaping my body, still hadn't really learned to ground, still hadn't stepped into the power of my sexuality in the way that I have now. And so when I recognized a deep soul connection with my coworker, I had this very strong like sexual energy that I was bringing toward that person. And I created a lot of drama. I was dating someone else at the time. He was married. It wasn't a situation. If I were in that position now, I would handle it very differently. And I also do my best to be really compassionate with my past self, because she didn't have the tools and the knowledge and the resources that I do now. And she was really befuddled and by this connection because she'd never experienced anything so intense. So I had expressed to this person that I had feelings for them and was leaving my job so I could act on that, and didn't hear from this person. And so the grief and the longing and the loss was so intense. And that was my most profound poetry writing period in my entire life. So 2017, the summer and the fall, I wrote such beautiful poems, and just with strong imagery, and I go back to them. Wow, this is good.
Maybe you can get them out there for the world to see at some point.
Yeah,
we have talked about that.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of my projects this year. Is I already have a poetry chapbook that I've written, and to self-publish that and to expand that into a full poetry collection that I would self-publish. That's a goal I have for this year. So harnessing those superpowers and really expressing that energy as it comes up rather than repressing it, because what I saw in this instance with this coworker is I was repressing certain desires. I wanted more support from my partner at the time, for example, or I wanted the confidence that this person I was drawn to had, that my coworker had. And rather than expressing those desires and really tapping into the core of that desire, I instead came from a place of insecurity and conditioning and attachment. I created drama, and I created things that everyone learned a lot from it. I learned a whole lot from it. And had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be able to speak to that in the same way that I do now. And a lot of the drama that people create is so unnecessary. So that's part of the reason I share my story, even though it's hard and it's vulnerable, is because if even one person can learn from my experience and act differently, make different choices that support the whole and support connection and love and trust, instead of doing something the way I did it, then that's worth it. That's worth it.
One person at a time. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think that's a good segue into the divine feminine, divine masculine, potentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
I completely agree, because when I was in that space, where I was chasing the love of this former coworker, and I was attached and I was needy and clingy and desperate, that was the mental energy I had, which manifested physically through this letter. I was very much in that toxic feminine energy, and I was in a very male dominated industry at that point, and there was a lot of masculine energy in my work environment. It was very rigid, it was very structured, to the point of some bureaucracy and red tape, and it was a rigid environment in a lot of ways. And so I think that microcosm really reflects what we're going through on a global scale right now. Is especially in the US, we've been operating in a masculine culture, and so a lot of the feminine has been repressed, and so it often comes out in a toxic way. It comes out as insecurity, anxiety, desperation, manipulation, control. And that's what I was doing in my relationship with this coworker, is I was exhibiting toxic feminine behaviors. So rather than being playful and trusting the flow of life and just being in movement and expressing my emotions authentically and coming from a place of empathy and care and compassion, I was coming from this place of manipulation. And so that's one of the patterns that we're healing globally. And as a society, is those patterns of the toxic feminine. We're also healing the toxic masculine. So I'm going to back up just a moment, because I haven't talked about masculine and feminine energy. So masculine energy is really directive, it's pointed, it's organized, it's structured. When someone says they're type A, that is masculine energy. It's detail oriented, and it sits in stillness until something disrupts that stillness, and then it takes action, and then it comes back to stillness.
Okay, makes sense.
And then feminine energy is very receptive, and it's rooted in the spiritual and the emotional. It's very intuitive, it's flowing, it's creative. And so people who are right brain or type B or creative have a lot of that feminine energy. And everyone, regardless of gender identity, has masculine and feminine energy. Everyone has a split of that is authentic to them. And this masculine and feminine energy can either come out in a divine way or in a toxic way. And so we're healing toxic patterns for both masculine and feminine energy and shifting into the divine aspect or representation and manifestation of those energies.
Beautifully said.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. It helps you see the world in a different way. Everything.
Yeah. Well, and as we continue through this global paradigm shift, because that's really where we are now, is there's going to be this balance between divine masculine and divine feminine energy. We're going to see more female leadership, and we're going to see patterns of empathy and collaboration and flow and intuition really being accepted. And we're going to see this beautiful integration between the left brain healthcare system, traditional science and Western medicine, and the intuitive spiritual, emotional, holistic approach. And we've seen some of that integration already, and the pandemic is going to just accelerate that and continue to move that forward. And so that's part of the reason that we're all coming together, is it's this global shift with the divine feminine. We are experiencing the divine feminine as a planet right now by coming together, building community, really focusing on collaboration. Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
I would like to go one of two directions. I'll let you kind of take the wheel here. Either
choose your own adventure, right?
right. Maybe we can do both. Maybe you could just see what comes. Either take us through a couple minutes of the meditation piece, or go on the topic of dating amidst the current situation.
Yeah. Let's start with dating, because I think that's relevant. And then I always love ending my videos with a process, because then it leaves someone in that state. So yeah, let's do both, and let's start with dating.
Great.
So for anyone who's not aware already, with COVID-19, there have been many recommendations, guidelines, and even mandates to follow social distancing. And social distancing, at least where I am currently in the US, is having 6 feet between another person and leaving that physical distance so that I don't transmit or catch the virus. And so this is a way to slow down the spread of COVID-19 so that we don't overwhelm our healthcare workers. It's going to lengthen the pandemic, and it's also going to make sure that everyone who does have serious symptoms is able to receive the care that they need, is able to recover from the virus as much as possible. So with social distancing, it really changes how we relate and how we date, because if there's suddenly this rule that I need to keep 6 feet between me and this person that I'm dating or that I'm with, that's so different. So we've already seen a significant increase in video technology. That's why Lindsay and I are coming to you from Zoom. Yeah. So there's been a huge rise in video technology, and that's how it's going to be with dating too, because if I'm going to keep six feet from someone, that radically changes things. We're not cuddling in the same way. We're not maybe even hugging. We're, either we're sitting across the room from each other, or we're connecting virtually. And especially as more and more cities move to a mandatory quarantine, where I'm only allowed to leave my house to go to the grocery store or to go to the pharmacy, it's really going to be more and more virtual. So with that, it really creates the opportunity for me to focus on emotional connection and to prioritize that and get to know someone on that plane, since the physical is not there, since the physical aspect of a connection, of a relationship, has shifted so much. And so it gives me this beautiful opportunity to get to know someone in a deeper way. And I've even noticed this already. There was someone I had gone on a date with about a year ago, and I had a lot of judgment toward that person at that point. And there was, and I asked not to go on another date. He actually reached out to me about a week and a half ago. Prior to the outbreak. This was prior to the outbreak, where I said, hey, let's do a video conference, because I didn't feel safe. I didn't trust myself. So that fear was coming up, right? That was my conditioned self. And so I said, let's do video. And it was a great conversation. I really did my best to be present throughout it. And because it was video and I didn't have all these thoughts through my head, like, well, what if he tries to take advantage of me? Or what if X, it's my phone. I can end the Zoom call whenever I want, or I can end FaceTime whenever I want.
Yeah.
So it gives me this opportunity to, as I'm relating with this person, stay present with my body, notice what's coming up, and really honor that and work through it, which was so healing and it was so transformational doing this call with him. And I found, you know what? I actually enjoyed it. I had fun. There were some aspects to it. Yeah. So like, let's do another video call. And then, I don't feel comfortable meeting in person at this point, and let's do another video call. Then now, of course, with COVID, it's like, well, okay, it's going to be video calls for a while. And so it really, it gives me such an opportunity that I wouldn't have had, because, and that's the thing about the COVID outbreak, is it's disrupting my usual patterns, and I'm finding new ways to navigate. And so my traditional pattern would have been to go on a dating app, to move things to a coffee date as soon as possible. Okay, am I attracted to this person? No. Well, then just go on another date with someone else. So with this, I'm just getting to know someone. I'm just getting to know someone. I can keep it 30 minutes, and that's not a huge commitment of my time. And I can do that once a week and get to know someone over time. So with dating, and that emotional intimacy is going to be the beauty, and the opportunity here is to go deep with someone. And then once the restrictions are lifted, once social distancing is no longer necessary, then I've already built that emotional intimacy with this person. And then the physical is just going to go from there. And it's going to be so powerful and so much deeper than it would have been otherwise, because I have this bond with someone. So if I'm looking to create a serious relationship, or to create emotional intimacy, to create a companion, this is a beautiful time to do that. So I don't have a primary partner myself, and I imagine that during this time, I'm really going to meet some people that might become that once the restrictions are lifted. We'll see. I'm not sure. I'm just doing my best to be present with the opportunities here. And if I'm looking for someone who is meaningful in my life, this is a great opportunity for that. So one way to initiate those connections, though, because even dating apps, I haven't been on dating apps recently. I don't know what other people's experience has been, but Facebook groups, there's such an outpouring of community and support, and it gives me an opportunity to connect with someone in a more authentic way, to connect with them based on shared interests, or to just see how they interact with certain pieces of content. And then as I want to get to know them more, to do so rather than this artificial swipe left, swipe right, when I know absolutely nothing about that person. So I think we're going to see a rise in people meeting through Facebook groups, through other social networks like that, having private video chats and building that emotional intimacy, and then having that carry forward to physical intimacy. So yeah, that's dating in this new paradigm, and I'm sure there'll be shifts and changes, and we're at the very start of it. So as we're going through this process, I'm sure there'll be more things that we learn and see.
And I think that gives people a lot of tools and motivation to see things in a different way. And what I've seen a lot of times is in long distance relationships, people do get that connection because they have to, whether they choose to or not. Yeah. And they build this foundation, have conversations they would never have if they were side by side in person. Right. So yeah, that's really motivating for people. I think maybe they'll be inspired to do more of that.
Yeah. And just one quick thing building off that, for anyone who might be saying, oh, emotional intimacy, why is that important? If you're watching Netflix during this time, and I'm sure there's some people binging Netflix, there is a show on Netflix called Love is Blind. And the concept of the show is so fascinating, because they put 10 men and 10 women into this building, and they say, okay, you have 10 days. The goal at the end of this is to walk out with the person you're going to be engaged to and you're going to marry in 4 weeks.
Wow.
And you're never going to see them face to face.
Oh my. Okay. The kicker.
So they build this connection by sitting in a pod, and they're across the wall from this other person. They just hear their voice, and that's it. So it's like they're having a phone conversation for 10 days. And they have these emotionally intimate moments where they get to suss out, is this person a good fit for me? Are we compatible? How would we live together? Are our values the same? Because research has shown that it is about the emotional intimacy rather than the physical attraction that like really sustains long-term relationships. So and two of the couples, so there were 6 couples that left that were engaged. 2 of the couples ended up getting married, and 2 of the couples a year later were still married.
Oh, that's great.
And the one that got engaged the first after 5 days, so 5 days, and they were like getting married, was an interracial couple. And the woman, Lauren, she said, I never would have dated him if it hadn't been for this.
Aww.
And they were just the sweetest couple ever. So to just realize that there's so much possibility, this disruption of business as usual.
Mm-hmm. Again, very inspiring, I think, to the masses. People are probably, their brains are probably going like, oh, okay, I can try that. Let's try this now. So yeah, that's really great. I think, yeah, that sets the tone and kind of gives people the idea about how important the emotional is, even if they watch the Netflix movie show.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. There's a lot of drama with it, and there's also a lot of inspiration.
Something else just came to me that we didn't go down the path. If you want to just add quickly about yourself. Something I asked you was about what was the last straw, or what made you decide to really put yourself out there and sell it?
Yes, we did talk about that. So because the work that I'm doing is incredibly vulnerable, and it is still a bit taboo to talk about sex and to talk about it openly, and to talk about sex and spirituality really operating together. So yeah, and to join them together and to bring them together in the same space. So just a little bit about my history, a little bit about my story. I grew up Catholic. I grew up in the Roman Catholic Church. And for anyone who's not familiar with what the Catholic Church teaches, it's pretty strict if I follow the rules to the law, which is how I was doing it. I was operating in a very black and white paradigm. And so growing up, I learned through the church and just through messages that were reinforced not to have sex until marriage, that masturbation was bad, that being LGBTQ was not okay, that sex was between a man and a woman who were married, abortion was not okay, contraception was not okay. I mean, so really just a very limited worldview around sex. At the same time, I was very disconnected from my body. And then in college, I decided to separate from the church. I stopped attending mass, and I started to pursue my current spiritual path. Started doing tarot readings, started learning about crystals, and really started stepping into the path of being a healer and really promoting that. And it was because I was working on myself. I wanted to heal myself. That's what I wanted initially. I was just searching for that spiritual connection. I was searching for something so I could feel whole. Mm-hmm. And as part of that, I really started leaning into my sexuality, started exploring sacred sexuality. But my business, I was still like, I'm just a healer. I am a Reiki practitioner. I do tarot readings occasionally, and I'm a health coach. That is safe. I'm good at it.
Yeah.
So that's where I was even last year. So last summer, that's where I was. My business was Mintaka Healing. I was a holistic health coach, not a holistic sex coach. And, was like, I'm blending health and energy healing. So then, and at the same time, throughout all this, because I was reading a bunch about sacred sexuality, a bunch about sex, a bunch about being queer and kinky and poly, and that's really been a big piece of my experience. I was like, I'm going to have a side business. I'm going to have a fun business. Like, once I get my real business off the ground, I'm going to have this side fun business. It's all about sex, and I'm going to be writing about sexuality. But like, I can't write about these things. I can't talk about these things as myself. So we're just going to have that under an alter ego, and I'm going to do that with my real business off the ground.
Yeah.
So that was the mindset I had. And then I went to Shine. That was a workshop, a transformational workshop with Shelly Ryuda, who is my coach. She is, she's my business coach. And through that, I started opening up because I suddenly had support. Because I suddenly had support to do the things that were scary and to really put myself out there. I think my soul and my guides opened up and said, okay, now you're stepping into what you were really actually put here to do. And so I remember on my kickoff call with Shelly, it was the end of October. So October 26th, 2019, Shelly and I are on the phone. I'm sitting on my bed and we're talking. And she said, it's really not clear what Mintaka healing is. I'm paraphrasing. Shelly's so kind about it. I'm sure she works differently. But like Mintaka healing, like it's not clear if someone's looking at that, what that means, what that is. She said, what if you named your business Erotic Empowerment? Because I was already starting to design some programs, and one of the ones that I had identified, I'm like, I'll name it Erotic Empowerment. Well, this fear came up for me. And so I had to process through that. And then I started taking action on it. It scared me, and I started taking action on it. And so really that was what launched it. It was as I started seeking that support, as I became authentic, that I suddenly started stepping into my life mission in a way that I hadn't. And as I continue being authentic, as I really reach for deeper and higher levels of that myself, the more I'm able to show up for my audience, the more I'm able to show up for my clients, the more space I'm able to hold for them, and the more directly I'm able to talk about sex and other things that are taboo and scary. So for me, one of the things that I did was cutting my hair. The first time I had a thought about cutting my hair was 2016. And I just didn't do it. I didn't have the support or the encouragement to practice that, to do that. And so I did. And that unleashed this whole layer of stuff that I then could clear and heal and look at. And then there's this next layer and this next layer and this next layer. And that's how it's for everyone. So that was the last straw. And that's really what the shift was. And that's what the pivot was, having that support and really making a commitment to step into my authentic self.
And you talked about taking big risks and doing something scary.
Yeah.
You mentioned the hair, but how that felt, and then talking about, what's next? Like, how can I raise the bar? I think you said.
Yes.
Which is also motivation for others. So once you do something really scary, how does that feel? And what can you do next to raise the bar for yourself and do something even more elevated, I would say?
Yeah, I have a choice whether I get to expand my universe or contract it. And we're seeing that right now with COVID-19 is so many people are contracting because globally we're going through this huge expansion. But when I expand, after I go through the next layer, or as I'm reaching the next layer, it's natural to want to contract because my conditioned self wants me to stay safe. It has protective patterns that I learned, so I stay safe. Now, those patterns don't serve me in this new paradigm. love and peace and joy serve me. So I have the choice to choose. I can choose how long I'm in my conditioned self. If I have tools and resources and support, it's a heck of a lot easier to shift from that conditioned self to the authentic self, so I keep growing and feeling more joy. And so I have the choice. Do I expand? Do I contract?
Mm-hmm.
How long am I contracting?
Mm.
And so
And I think go ahead.
Yeah, so that's just what we're seeing on a global scale right now.
Yeah, because I think people think, if I had this gift, I have to get out there now because I have to take the fear away. People need this information or whatever I have to share. And there's a element of I'm not physically in front of people, so maybe they're more comfortable getting up on video and saying, here's what I do, and I want to share it with the world. And that just takes an element away. They're safe in their homes and able to be in their comfort zone and shift.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're going to see lots of innovation. I think we're going to see lots of new creators emerging in the next few months.
Creators emerging. All right. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, that was very insightful into you as a person, into your journey, your path, what made you come out and share your gifts with the world. And in addition to that, I think a lot of people can walk away just from listening today with some tools that can help them today, right now, but then bigger picture for their whole journey as well. So I would like you to say a few things before we do the meditation about yourself, how they can find you on.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I am on Facebook most prominently. I have a group. So I've been actually leading daily meditations since Tuesday. That's going to happen for the foreseeable future, perhaps perpetually. It's been such a joy to do that. And so if you're looking for live daily meditations, that's a great way to connect. I also have lots of trainings about sacred sexuality, conscious dating, relationships, embracing your authentic self. So the community is free. The Sexy Spiritual Badasses. So if you're on Facebook, it's facebook.com/groups/Sexy Spiritual Badasses. You can also type Sexy Spiritual Badasses in the search bar and find it that way. So that's the best way to connect with me, is on Facebook. You can also find me by typing in Kelly Noel Zeva and connecting with me personally. Erotic Empowerment has a Facebook page as well. So those are the 3 ways that you can connect with me on Facebook. I do also have a website, empowerederotic.com. And I have a blog there. I'm shifting things over still, so the blog is going to grow over the next few months here. And then I'm also on Instagram, and that is one of my projects over the next month here, is to really start being active on that, because I know there's a lot of people on Instagram. And so on Instagram, I'm Empowered Erotic, and you'll see my face. So the handle is @EmpoweredErotic, and I'm listed there as Kelly Noel Zeva. So I have a mix of personal and professional posts there. Same on Facebook. So those are the best ways to connect. I do also have an email list. So if you go to empowerederotic.com, you can subscribe that way. I have a 5-day free course. I also have some downloads there. So those are the best ways to connect. And then if you're interested in connecting, for coaching or whatnot, you can either send me a direct message on Facebook, or you can also drop me an email at Kelly Noel Zeva. So that's KELLYNOEL Zeva, ZEVA @gmail.com.
Okay, perfect. That's great. I think a lot of people might just be very interested in what you have to offer. I think that's great.
Awesome. Thank you.
So to end, I won't be saying a lot of words after we do the meditation, so people can end on a grounded note. So I'll just go ahead.
I'm just shifting because I want to make sure the screen doesn't go black, so I'm plugging in my phone.
Oh, I see. Okay, take your time. I'll just say a few things about the talk show and how they can find me and find you as well while you do that. So again, I'm Lindsay Lou Rogers. You can find me at www.lindsaylourogers.com. And today's talk show is called Momentum. And yes, we're featuring Kelly Noel Zeva, and she told you how to find her. After the meditation is over, we will end the show for today, so you can go on in your Zen way and feel what it feels like to get some of this guided meditation into your life. And you might just want that daily. Start whenever you'd like.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to invite you all to get into a comfortable seated position. If you're able to be in a place where your hips are higher than your knees, that is ideal. And so just coming into your body and just starting to connect with where your body is touching the wall or the cushion or the floor. Just feeling that point between where you end and the next object begins, to feel that edge. And then as you're feeling that, we're going to take a couple deep breaths, breathing in from the lower abdomen, filling stomach, lungs, and chest, and then exhaling deeply out the mouth. So this is starting to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Really deepening that breath, expanding that breath. So we're going to breathe in again, breathing in from the lower abdomen, filling stomach, lungs, and chest. Holding and then exhaling deeply out the mouth. And then breathing in again, one more time. Breathing in from the lower abdomen, filling stomach, lungs, and chest. And then exhaling deeply out the mouth. So then imagining that you have this grounding cord coming down from the seat, down from your seat, down from your tailbone, the base of your spine, just going down, 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 down into the earth. So this grounding cord is a green tube of light. Just imagining that wider and wider until it's about 8 inches across. And sending that tube down, down through the floor, down into the dirt, down through the rock, down through the magma, down through the outer core, all the way into the inner core of the earth. Connecting to the very center of the earth. And just feeling that gold liquid light from the center of the earth start to flow up that grounding cord. That healing earth energy, and breathing in that beautiful liquid gold light on the inhale, imagining that the light is coming up that grounding cord and into your body. So breathing in. And then on the exhale, releasing anything that no longer serves you down through your body, down that grounding cord, down into the center of the earth. Breathing in, up that grounding cord. And out. And in. And out. And so then just taking a moment to get really present with what I'm feeling in my body now. So during this time of shifting and transformation, there's a lot of fear that's being activated so that I can heal and release it. And that's coming from my root chakra. Just want you to bring your attention to your groin, to your pelvis. And really to imagine that there's this beautiful ruby red light, this red ball of light just sitting in the groin, sitting in the pelvis, and just seeing that rotate, that it's spinning clockwise in a healthy direction, that I'm open to the flow of life, that I trust the flow of life, that I settle into this knowledge that I have abundance, that I am abundant. And so now we're going to take a few deep breaths into this specific area of the body. So again, breathing in that beautiful golden light from the center of the earth, breathing that into your root chakra, into this red ball of light that's in your pelvis. So breathing in, into that area, and then exhaling anything out of that area, any anxiety, any worry, any fear, anything that is restricting you from your abundance, from trusting the flow of life. And then breathing into that area one more time. And exhaling deeply out the mouth, releasing, letting go. And then breathing into this area one last time, breathing in. And exhaling out. And so then now trusting that your root chakra is open, that you are grounded, that you are present in your body, and that you have the ability throughout all of your life to cycle through that fear so you can release it. So as it comes up for healing, that you can let it go, that you can shift it, that you can release it so that you stay in this space of abundance and trust and flow and love and energy and positivity. And knowing that you can bring this energy into your life at any moment simply by connecting to the earth, simply by imagining that grounding cord going into the center of the earth, and that you can open your root chakra in this way at any time you so choose. So then slowly coming back to the room, wiggling your fingers and toes, tapping your feet on the floor, rubbing the tops of your thighs, and then once you're safely back inside the room, back inside your body, opening your eyes.
Powerful. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
So I hope all of you were able to join in for that as well and feel what that felt like. And if you want more, you know how to find Kelly and her daily meditations, her personal coaching, and her Sexy Spiritual Badass group.
Yes, we are the Sexy Spiritual Badasses. And, you know, there's a wide variety of people in that group. So I know I've gotten some questions about, well, what if I identify with a specific faith tradition or I'm agnostic? And I really think of spirituality as this authentic self. Like at its core, it's really about me connecting with my authenticity. So, you know, feel free to message me if you have reservations about joining the group, and know that it's an inclusive space.
Very good. Okay, well, thanks for being here today, and we will share this with Total Mundo, with the world.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kelly.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Yep. Bye.